Hello and welcome to Perfectly Seasoned, the podcast about all things culinary. I'm Greg Strahm.
And I'm Cynthia Malone.
Today we'll be discussing weekly menu and meal planning and why it's so important. Stay tuned. Good morning, Cynthia.
Good morning, Greg. Happy Saturday.
Thank you. Well, nothing's really changed since last week. Still the same old, same old.
I know it's getting harder and harder each week, but you have to find the little things to keep you going.
Speaking of that, one of the things that has been getting us going is, and it also has involved Tim, who is starting to do more cooking on his own. Mm-hmm. And we're doing meal planning and weekly menu planning. Do you plan your meals in advance?
I do now. Since I'm taking, I'm having my groceries delivered, and I try not to do that very often. So I try to get things that will last at least a couple weeks, and then I do another order. Try to go longer if I can. But yeah, so I have to now.
Well, one of the things as a personal chef that's very important, and that is meal planning and menu planning. It's key to our profession. And just as an example, we're going back into another life. In 1993, I worked for a company that put out a monthly pickup and delivery dinner menu for the public, and it was a subscription. This was before the era of subscription menu services. It was just a local catering company, and we decided to do that to augment our income during the off season. And if you subscribed, you would get a monthly menu, and you would call us by noon the day before to place your dinner order for the next day. And then it would be delivered fresh to your door. But we also had clients who preferred to have their daily meals prepared in their house, which required weekly planning as well. So meal planning and menu planning is not something new. It's just becoming a little bit more prevalent, I think, because of the situation that we're currently in.
Yes, so for me, I try to plan recipes with like ingredients throughout the week, so that way I can use everything that I bought and planned for, and they cross over, to all recipes. I might use cilantro in quite a few, or if I get basil, then I make sure that I use that throughout the week. So keeping that consistency is important so that nothing gets wilted and I end up that poor bag of arugula everyone buys and ends up throwing in the trash.
Yeah. Well, one of the principal goals of meal planning is just to make sure that you have variety in the freshest ingredients. Mm-hmm. And depending on where you live, also seasonal ingredients is very important. Yes. Make sure that your flavors are interesting and your textures, because you don't want to end up having the same experience with food every single night. You want something that is going to have some variation in it. And the other thing is, it's important to figure out if you can get multiple meals from any leftovers if you need to have them. And that also keeps the cost down, and it also saves time. So it's not really any different in a home or family setting as it is in a personal chef situation. Mm-hmm. So I do plan menus for our house, but not for every night, because we enjoy eating out with friends, and frequently we have to meet clients for drinks and dinner, and it's usually in a neutral surrounding, so it's usually a restaurant. So I don't plan to have 7 nights worth of menus until just recently, to be quite honest with you. But now it's all bets are off, and so since we've been staying at home, planning has really become an important part of our daily routine. I know you only have Walter there. Do you discuss your meal plans with Walter on what you're going to fix?
I do. I talk to him a lot these days, I will admit, and he gives his feedback because he's my little taste tester and vacuum cleaner. So any crumbs, but to be fair, he always gives his seal of approval. So,
Tim has really become an important part of our menu planning because I've talked about Tim before. He is a vegetarian and gluten free. So there are some challenges that come up when you're trying to do a meal plan for different
sure.
different eating styles and different eating habits. It turns out that he finds these really fun and interesting vegetarian recipes that he wants to try, and he'll run them by me, and I'll take a look at them and say, oh, yeah, that looks kind of interesting. And some of them are just not for me. But he really has become an integral part of the meal planning, and it's become a joint effort. As a matter of
That's fun
fact,
too.
well, it is. And he's found some really, really good recipes that I'm going to incorporate into my repertoire. So
Lovely.
there are some benefits of planning weekly menus. What are some that you can come up with?
Well, I BC before Corona, when I would plan, um, I
Good one.
thank you. I would often eat out as well, but planning meals for, let's say, Monday night, Sunday night, and maybe Wednesday night would force me to stay home and make dinner for myself. Um, so it kind of became like little landmarks in my routine where I knew I had X, Y, or Z during the week. I'd probably have dinner with friends Friday night, Saturday night. So where are the places where I can save my money, plan ahead, and not use a lot of time cooking during the busy work week?
Planning the menus is really a good way of also saving money. And the one thing that I have discovered being the designated shopper, and that is it not only saves money, but it has resulted in fewer temptations to impulse buy, which I am very guilty of.
Oh, yes, me too.
Very guilty. Oh, I'll try that. Yeah, it looks good. Yeah, maybe I'll try that. By planning in advance, if you check this weekly store circulars online, you can prepare menus that you can based around things that are on sale. And one of my favorite things, BOGOs, buy one get one.
Yes.
And there are other great store deals too. And but if you plan for them in advance, what you're going to purchase and stick to it, and only go down the aisles that you really need to go down to buy your items, which is a little
Yes.
difficult now because I don't know how it is where you are, but Publix
Hmm.
here, they each aisle, one is a go up aisle, one is a go down aisle. So you have to,
Oh, wow.
yes,
Okay.
yeah. God forbid you should go up the down aisle because people will just lay into you. So
No, that's smart though. We
it
definitely don't
is.
have that
It
here.
is. Makes it a little bit more challenging if the aisle that you have to go up is actually a down aisle. So you have to,
Right.
but you work it out. But time saving is another big thing because if you can only make one trip to the store,
Right.
before this situation, I was going to the store every day, sometimes twice a day, because I think, oh, I'll just go back. I forgot this. I'll go, Now
Right.
you have everything planned. And
Mm-hmm.
we talked a little bit about this in previous episodes about some of the software that you can get for shopping lists, cooking
Mm-hmm.
apps, which really is a great time saver. And a lot of them are free, so you don't have to get the premium versions of these things. But
No.
the other thing about doing meal planning and menu planning is sometimes the leftovers become an issue for me because I get bored pretty quickly.
Oh, you and I are cut from the same cloth there.
But
Absolutely.
During this crisis, I've discovered how to be a little bit more creative and to turn something that was one thing into something totally different. And
That is a good talent to have.
it,
It's not easy all the time.
well, I will tell you that one of the things that I have depended on are a couple of, there again, my cooking apps where you can type in the ingredients you have and it will pull up a menu based on those ingredients. And you'll be surprised how different
Yes.
that ingredient becomes, but it's essential for that particular recipe. So
And then you feel like you're in an episode of Master Chef with a mystery box. Like,
that's,
what can I make
I
out of
know.
all of this? Kind of fun.
Well, well, I will say though, there have been a couple of incidences where I felt like I was on Chopped, and I probably should have been. But hey, you know what? You do what you got to do when you got to do it. So, but if you can plan in advance, there's no end to what the creativity that you can come up with, and especially if you're doing it with somebody else, it makes it a little bit more fun and makes it interesting. And sometimes it is a challenge, but if you talk about your ideas with your spouse or your family members,
Or
you
your
have to
dog.
know, yeah, you have to plan because you have to know what their likes and dislikes are. You know,
Hmm.
we've become so used to having, let's say, for example, coming home from work and having mom have dinner on the table and it's there and you just eat it. Now, a lot of times people have different dietary needs and restrictions, so you have
Hmm.
to be able to address those. So if you post your menu for the week on the refrigerator where everyone can see it, then there's no excuse as to being surprised. Well, I don't like this. I can't eat that. Because if you've talked about it in,
Right.
prior to shopping and making the dinners for the week, then it's much better, and it also is a stress. It reduces a little bit of stress on whoever's doing the
Oh,
cooking.
absolutely. And I've tried to kind of keep some normal traditions in my life, even though now it's hard. So, Tuesdays, I might make fish tacos, Taco Tuesdays, and maybe I will swing by my favorite little Mexican place and get some fresh chips and salsa and maybe a margarita to go. And then I have my little Taco Tuesday. And then I make meals maybe Friday night, I have a frozen pizza night. And then Saturday night, I might, I'm going to get takeaway from the Thai place down the street. Just to kind of keep some of those little things. And then I cook throughout the week, breakfast, lunch, dinner. But having those, like keeping the weekends when every day feels like a weekend, something special in that regard, kind of cuts the monotony a little bit.
Well, you said something at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's a good thing to pick up on there because you don't necessarily have to prepare only dinner, plan for the entire week's worth of dinners. You can switch it up a little. Let's say that you make one week your recipes are geared around things that you can do just for lunch. And maybe one week you want to think about, okay, well, I'm going to do some really good breakfasts this week.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe another week you plan lunch and dinner based on what you prepare for dinner for lunch the next day. So there's no end to the possibilities of how you can do this, as long as the meals that you're providing are giving you a balanced diet and you take into consideration whatever dietary restrictions you have or your family has. And also,
Yes.
nutritional aspects are very important. You don't want to do things that are really in fat or carbs
Mm-hmm.
if you know that people in your family are conscious of that and watching, especially since we're not able to get out and do things. It's so easy to pack on the pounds.
Right.
So these are all considerations that you got to take
Well,
under advisement.
yes, and being solo also, I kind of what I've done is I choose the protein, so I don't eat really a lot of meat, so it's a lot of fish, shrimp, maybe some chicken, And then I kind of make sure, yeah, that I am balanced. A couple weeks will go by and I'm like, I really want some protein.
Mm.
Like I haven't really had like any meat in a while. And so then on the next list, I'll do that. Or I'll do, okay, I'm going to get all this mahi and shrimp. So I'll do fish and chips, fish tacos. Then I might do like a roasted salmon, that week. And then those are like my main entrees, So just kind of trying, you're right, like being balanced and feeling like you have a spectrum of flavors.
Well, one of the other things that about choosing, like if you're a breakfast person, that's when you maybe that one week you decide that you're going to do breakfast. Another one is lunch, as I said, and then dinner. But if you choose your recipes based on what everybody would enjoy, then it's going to make it a lot easier for you to plan those meals because you have to use the ingredients that you have in your pantry. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's always a good thing to keep things in your pantry. Like one of the secret recipes that I usually keep in mind, I usually keep at least 1 can of cream of celery soup, 1 can of cream of mushroom soup, and 1 can of cream of chicken soup because there's a lot you can do with those three ingredients. So, casseroles are a great way to turn a night before entree into something really nice, even for the next night's dinner in a casserole. So, never
Yes.
underestimate the value of a casserole, but they really are a great way to plan a menu for the week and also not waste any of the ingredients and the meals that you're getting a little tired of. So I recommend people look up. There are so many great websites that have casserole recipes, and you can there again, if you have the app, you can type in whatever ingredients that you have, the main ingredients, and you'll find something, I guarantee, a casserole that would really be something that everyone in the family would enjoy. One of the other things too is I know you eat a lot of seafood.
Mm-hmm.
So if a family likes seafood like yourself, instead of primarily eating red meat, there are so many different types of seafood. One night you can have salmon, one night you can have shrimp, and one night you can have grouper, one night you can have scallops.
Oh, yeah. It
So
really gives a lot of variety. And what I've done is I might pick like what I said when I do my shopping and I pick my ingredients. I use my cookbooks. I have so many and I love them all. And so, the night before I do my groceries, I lay them out. I choose my recipes. And I've been doing a lot of Asian dishes lately. A lot of
that's
Thai
what it sounds
and
like. It sounds like
Japanese.
you've been doing that because just from listening to your conversation, it's like, oh, she's really getting into this Asian stuff.
I really am. And what I did, well, so I moved. We talked about that on the podcast, and I came and I didn't really have. I really hadn't cooked that most of that year, so I had to get new spices and everything. So I went through my cookbooks, and I I spent some money, you can imagine, but I got all my staples. I got soy sauce, and I got Old Bay, and I got mirin, and I got all of these things that I knew I would be using, and I'm still using them. And then that way I have my staples. I made a curry from scratch the other night, just with all of the spices that I had, and a little oil and tomato paste, and I made this delicious shrimp curry. And it was fantastic, and I'm so grateful that I took the time. And a lot of cookbooks will have pantry staples of every recipe in that book at the front, so that you can kind of see what you have, what you might get, especially if they're recipes that you love to make. So the sauce I used for my shrimp stir fry, I ended up putting on the salmon the next night. And so it's really kind of amazing if you
Well,
really take the
that
time.
that goes back to one of the podcasts previously where we were talking about using what you have on hand,
Mm-hmm.
and just because the recipe says you can use it on a certain thing doesn't mean that you can't use it on something else. I mean, the creativity is very important in cooking. You have to be able to adapt, and cooking is one of the art forms that allows you to adapt very simply if based on the items that you have either in your pantry, in your freezer, or your refrigerator. And you can, what's the worst thing that can happen is that it just doesn't taste good. You'll never make it again. But, for
Right.
example, if a recipe calls for ground beef and you don't have ground beef or you prefer not to eat ground beef, eat ground chicken or ground turkey. There's no reason that it's not going to make that much of a difference. So you have
Right.
to really be able to be adaptable and be
Mm-hmm.
creative. Be creative. And then you have to use what's on hand. When you're going through your pantry, like we talked about in a previous episode of this. There are things you go through your pantry you haven't even remembered you've had for years. So
Right. And you can use those things and remix and match. And I have bagged potatoes and I was going to make fish and chips this afternoon. Okay, I can also make seasoned fries. If I have a veggie burger the next night. I can make huevos rancheros. I can do that. So just look at your main ingredient. Think about all the things you like. What I've been doing is going to some of my favorite restaurants' menus online and just kind of looking and getting ideas from there. I'm like, oh yeah, I loved that dish. I don't have the recipe, but I have an idea. I know what it tastes like. Maybe I can just give that a shot and try to make that. And
well,
that's
if you
kind of
don't
fun.
have the recipe, if you type those exact words in either the
Right.
internet
Yeah.
or in your one of your recipe apps or cooking apps, I guarantee you're going to come up with something that's similar, and it'll be just fine. So,
Yes. And also, if you are on Instagram, a lot of chefs are doing cooking, live cooking, and you can cook along with them. They usually post the ingredients you need a week before, the night before. I've done a souffle with Chef Luna Lefebvre in Los Angeles at Petit Trois. He did a French omelet the other day. Gordon Ramsay's doing fish and chips this afternoon, so I'll be watching that when I cook. Jose Andres has done things, so if you have a favorite chef, follow them online, and you might have a cooking class out of it as well.
well, I'm still waiting for my tutorial on Instagram. Please
I know
take
we
pity on me,
definitely need to
Cynthia. I
do
need
this. We
help.
need to do this. Yes, absolutely. I love it. I will help you. Yes.
Well, another thing too is if you subscribe, everybody goes to YouTube, but if you subscribe to some of the YouTube cooking channels, you're going to find some amazing recipes that are go from the simple to the absolute divine and exotic. So don't underestimate the power of YouTube. It's not just for funny, silly things. I mean, you can really learn a lot of good things. That's how I learned how to do all this podcast stuff. The technical stuff was through
Right.
YouTube.
And
So
and now you have a boot camp on YouTube.
yes, I do. I do. And that's actually going to be evolving as well. So I'm real excited about that. But just like everything else, it'll be evolving. And I'm you just have to step up and you just have to try it. You just have to try these things. And the same with cooking.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something that you've heard me say this before, and I really believe it. Cooking is not rocket science. It's just not. And you're only limited by your own lack of creativity or sense of lack of creativity. Everybody has some sort of creative gene in them that they can try things. And when you're planning menus, it's no different. You just have to think out of the box, as they say, because there are so many different things that you can do when you're planning a menu and planning meals that
Mm-hmm.
you should at least give it a try. I try. Somebody asked me, well, when is the best time to plan these things? Well, that depends, but I will give you a few clues of how I work. I always try to plan next week's meals towards the end of the previous week.
Okay.
And the reason is I'm going to use our Publix, which is our Kroger's or Big Bear or whatever your local supermarket is. Ours is Publix. And if you go on their website and you look, they will tell you when their circulars come out and what sales begin, when they begin and how long they last. So you can,
Nice.
if you do that, you can figure out, oh, this week chicken is on sale. Okay, I'm going to plan some chicken recipes this week. Or oh my gosh, I can't believe they have salmon on sale this week. So I'm going to get some fresh salmon and make some salmon dishes. So the other thing is they usually tell you that the sales, they have two postings per week. One is usually from Wednesday to Thursday, and then one is from Tuesday to, what is the other one? Tuesday to Thursday. So it's from Wednesday through Tuesday, and then Thursday through Wednesday.
Okay, nice.
And the other thing was, I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to ask the manager, when do the trucks come in? Because I want fresh produce. I don't want produce that's been sitting there for a week. So there are things that you can do to make it interesting and try to do it. I usually like to try to do it towards the end of the week for the following week because, like Thursday or Friday in the afternoon or the evening, I can sit down at my computer, a glass of wine, have my recipes
Yes.
pulled together, see what my shopping lists are, and try to put it together. And another thing is you should try to set a budget. How much do you want to spend each week for these meals? And that's how I do it. Now, that's a personal thing for me. It just depends on what your schedule is. If you find that Monday night's better for you, then go for it.
Right.
But I do find one thing that's universal, and I think it's shopping is always better early in the morning because you get the freshest produce.
Yes. Get up and get there and get it done first thing.
And and finally, what do you do with the leftovers? How do you reinvent? How do
Right.
you reinvent a leftover? How do you do it? Give me an example. I'm going to
Well,
give you an example, and you give me how you would do it. What would you do with a fillet of fish? Let's say
oh gosh.
grouper.
Oh, I love grouper. I can't get that in Kansas City, sadly. But what I would do, so let's say I might do like a grouper sandwich with a little bit of slaw, some red cabbage slaw, maybe on some brioche. That would be good. That sounds great right now to me.
Well, I kind of picked something that was a little
Yeah.
a little difficult. I'm sorry, but
Yeah, that could be good.
well, one of the things that I would do I'm not somebody who eats fish a second day. I have to have it
I mean, I'm not
fresh.
either, but
But if I had
sometimes.
to, it would be easy to mask it in a fish taco because there's a lot of things that you can put on it
Oh, yes.
that would work very well. But here's a couple other examples, and these are things that a lot of people. These are probably the most common leftovers and the easiest way to invent them. I'm going to take chicken. Look, you have roast
Oh,
chicken.
yeah.
Okay,
Easy.
you can make multiple types of chicken salad, or you can make chicken pot pie and makes it something that's totally different than the roast chicken you had the night before. Different textures, different flavor profile, a nice crust on the top of it. So it's totally different. So you're not thinking, oh, I'm having chicken again this week. So and as I said, that's the creativity that comes in. Another thing is, what do you do with leftover roast beef? Well,
Oh,
yeah, shepherd's pie.
there
Shepherd's
you go.
pie. A great way. You can make a nice casserole, or you can do stroganoff. There are recipes out there that you can use leftover roast from the night before, vegetables that have been steamed the night before. Here we go with breakfast, a vegetable frittata.
Oh, perfect. Yes.
You just have to think out of the box, as I said before. Pureed soups from leftover vegetables. Terrific idea. Very easy to
Oh,
make.
Yeah.
Put it right in your Vitamix, and with a little seasoning of your choice, and some fresh parsley to garnish with, and you've got a beautiful bowl of pureed vegetable soup. Or pasta primavera. Add some pasta to it, and just
Fantastic. Yes.
and these are things that people don't think about because it's like, oh, what do I do with these leftovers? Well, don't think of them as leftovers. Think of them as a possibility for another meal.
Right. Absolutely. And yeah, vegetables especially can be very forgiving and you can do so much.
Yeah, yeah. I hope you will consider trying to plan a weekly menu. And if it works out well for you, I hope that you will try maybe 2 weeks worth of
Mm-hmm.
meals and see what happens. And if that works out, go for 3 weeks. And then, once you get in the swing of it, it becomes second nature, it does become very easy and very quick. You can pull it together in no time at all. I hope you'll give menu and meal planning a try. And I have some really good links on the website this week that have recipes for a lot of the leftovers, for example. So I hope you'll check that out. But if you have any questions about today's topic or for any other questions, cooking questions, you can follow me on Facebook at The Silver Chef, or you can subscribe to our podcasts on iTunes, Spotify, and Twitter. Instagram, I'm still waiting for my coaching session.
He's getting there. He's gonna
But,
get
but
there.
the address is the Silver Chef _ Hope Sound. And Cynthia, yours is.
At the little spoon _
And she's much more adept at it than I am, at least for right now. But I'm willing to go there. So, and of course, you can always go to the website, which is thesilverchef.net, and find recipes and food related links with each podcast. And the website looks a little different now because it's also evolving. So should be a little easier to get around now. So that'll be helpful for finding the links. And you can also subscribe and follow me on my new YouTube channel. It's
Woohoo.
called Perfectly Seasoned Cooking Boot Camp. There are only 2 episodes up. There'll be a third one up this week. But you can go into YouTube and subscribe to that so you'll be notified when they are. And I hope you enjoy them because it's, as I said, the YouTube channel is going to evolve similar to the website. As I get more
Cool.
comfortable in doing it, it should be a lot easier and things will flow better. But you got to start somewhere.
You always have to. Hmm.
So until next time, eat well, drink good wine, and enjoy life. This is Greg Strahm,
And Cynthia Malone.
hoping all your days will be perfectly seasoned.